It's some quotable lines in this damn movie too.
Oh yeah.
And I feel sorry for your mother. Man.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the West Coast movie. It talked about again, man. Hey, it highlighted the gang culture. It highlighted, man, what, how quick things in the hood can turn left. How again, man, what the things when you do wrong, and when you're trying to do right, your past catches up.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It has a very good storyline of, man, being careful how you treat people, because you never know, man, who you mistreating.
Exactly. Yeah.
Tyron Turner he don't have a lot of great, standout roles, but he did a hell of a job playing Caine.
Yeah.
Of course, the great Lorenz Tate is Old Dog. We're going back with Jada Pinkett as Ronnie. Samuel L. Jackson, Caine. Man, I mean, you got MC8 played 8 Wax. You got like Clifton Powell. Yeah, playing Chauncey. You got Charles Dutton playing Mr. Butler with the wise father figure.
Yep.
B.Cox, let's talk about the cultural impact of Menace to Society by the Hughes brothers, man.
Yeah, man. Menace to Society. Wow. Another one of those movies. We talk about how Boys in the Hood was like the one that kind of set it off for that new age black cinema on the West Coast. Menace to Society is kind of the sequel to that, really. You have this movie and this tale, obviously. We talk about, obviously black men trying to make a way for themselves in Menace to Society. You see the same way pretty much here. And you see it at different areas as far as like the group of friends. You have Caine, who is here, parents is gone. And Caine had it bad from the beginning. The very opening of the movie, his father gets killed, right? Mother ends up not being around, mother gone, right? He's being raised by his grandparents, who are very religious and are tired of him being the way that he is because he can't seem to get right. Caine is obviously trying to make a way. He's doing the things only thing that he knows how to do, right? He said, the first thing his father did was taught him was how to make drugs, right? That's the one thing his father taught him how to do. He was in the streets and wanted to hustle. Then you have O-Dog, who obviously, as we say, irredeemable in the streets, about the streets, not coming out the streets, and going to do everything by the code of the streets, and that's it. Then you have Sharif, who is the do-gooder of the group, trying to really get some sense into his friends' heads. Become converted to Islam. Is a Muslim. Is trying to talk some sense into his friends, but obviously to no avail on so many different times. And then you have Stacy, the football player who has ambitions to go and do stuff as well, is kind of sitting there on the periphery, being there. And then you have A-Wax, who is the irredeemable all of them, because he's the most one in the streets out of all of them and the most hood out of all of them. And they're the cast of characters that make up this core of this film. And then you have these other characters around, along with Caine's parents. You have Mr. Butler, Sharif's father, who is basically giving some of the best quotables and lines when you talk about stuff during this movie, including that one scene when he's talking to Sharif and Caine in the movie, and he's talking to them, talking about what it is to be a black man in America, and what you need to do is survive, right? What you need to do is survive. And then you have this storyline with Ronnie, who is obviously there, who becomes a love interest, has a son with Purnell, who was locked up in jail, played by Glenn Plummer, the OG who looked out for Caine and is okay with what develops between Ronnie and Caine, and saying like, listen, go with Ronnie, man. She's a good girl. Take care of her, because he in jail. He's not getting out, right? He can't do anything for her. So go with Ronnie. She's a good girl, man. I'm giving you my blessing on this. But then all the things between it, with Caine sticking people up, but being a dope boy, selling drugs and being involved in stuff with getting into trouble and macking girls. Obviously, the one thing we see is that him with Elena, and that becomes a whole storyline in it as well. The fact that these things happen where Caine's cousin gets killed, and O-Dog is all about trying to get some get back because his cousin has died. And while Caine is upset, he's hesitant about wanting to take things that way. But O-Dog's all about it. A-Wax is all about it. They want to go ahead and handle things the way they think they need to handle them. And then through this movie, you can see that Caine figures out that this is not going to be a sustainable lifestyle for him. But as you said, the choices that you make and the lifestyle that you live eventually catches up with you. And then when Caine finally decides he's going to do well, his grandparents have kicked him out of the house. Ronnie wants him to come with her to Atlanta. And that's when everything breaks up, with him supposedly getting Elena pregnant and him basically brushing her off and her telling her cousin. And this leads to the scene in the movie where they're getting ready to move to Atlanta. And Elena and her cousin and they folks ride up on them and shoot them in a drive-by. And that's where it ends, is that Caine was sitting there, and the monologue at the end of it was saying, my grandfather once asked me if I care whether I live or die. And I told him at that time I didn't know. And now I know that I do, but it's too late, you know? And that's what it is, you know? And in the end of this as well, in the tragedy of that shooting, Sharif ends up dying too, you know? I mean, it doesn't explicitly say that Sharif is dead, but when they shoot him, he's on the ground and not moving. So I'm going to assume that Sharif ended up getting killed, right?
That nigga died
and
too.
That's the tragedy about all of this, because him and Stacey was getting ready to go move to Kansas while Casey went to go play football. Sharif's following him out there. So it's a tragic story, man, because Caine really had the deck stacked against him from the very beginning. And he found himself in the streets, and he wanted to do that. And he got into that until eventually it's all starting to catch up to him. And he understood that there's not really a whole lot left for me here, you know? And all the things they were involved in, the insurance scams and stuff like that, trying to be able to make a little bit of a buck. And the people they're involved with, you know, the whole very opening scene when they went in the convenience store, like you mentioned, the I feel sorry for your mother, hurry up and buy, you know, that whole part of that, with them being a part of that, catching up with them, the surveillance tape from the convenience store, and them knowing that they were involved in the murder of these people who got killed in his convenience store, which is another story, like in South Central, like in LA, right? The Asian shop owners and the way that they treated their black customers, especially because their stores in the hood. And this is off of what happened to Shatasha Harlins in 1991, and the Korean shop owner who shot her because she thought she was stealing, right? All things that are sort of like things that are coming into real and from cinema, coming from real life. And you know, the fact that Chauncey was planning on dropping a dime on them and showing them, getting the police this tape to show them basically implementing this crime, and they're getting out of there just in the time of dodge. But just when they thought they were going to get away clean, man, it's like nothing ever dies. And that's what happened. Is that Caine's passed eventually. The one thing that Caine thought he was going to be able to get away with, he couldn't outrun that, because he had finally bitten off way too much more than he could chew. Wow. And all the things that his grandfather was warning him about was something that eventually ended up affecting him, man.
Yeah. And B.Cox, well, man, you literally, man, hit every major narrative that was going on. But, you know, Mr. Butler, having that father telling you, hey, you know what, it ain't easy being a black man in America. You know, telling them, hey, man, you know what, the hunt is on and you to pray. That's a line that resonated in my head from that point to even still, you know, to this day. And it was like, no matter what Caine did, man, he could not escape his past.
Yeah, he couldn't,
and like, man. I love what you said. The one thing that actually ended up travailing him and ended up, you know, being ultimately cost him his life was how he mishandled Elena.
Yeah,
because you know what? That was, you end up stomping out her cousin who came to talk to you about, man, how you handled the situation, callous.
Yeah.
And hey, man, he came back with them choppers, and hey, man, ended up costing, like we said, at least a few lot casualties, Sharif and for sure Caine himself. So, you know, man, I just, you know, and then you had Old Dog, the guy, the hopeless gangster that said, "Fuck it, I'm gonna be relegated to the hood. I ain't never gonna be shit. I ain't gonna ever have shit. This it.
Yeah,
this it.
Yeah." And that was the part of Caine's life that kind of kept, you know, pulling him back into this life, right? It's that his partner was in the life and wasn't trying to get out of it. So it was no help whatsoever, right? It was no help whatsoever. And I thought it was telling when the scene after he stomps out Elena's cousin and he goes inside the house, his grandfather calls him in and basically kicks him out. Yeah. And says, "You're out, man. Like, listen, you're bad. Like, there's nothing more that I can do for you.
No.
You know, I don't care how you not staying another night in this house. That's it. You're gone." And then when he tells her, like, "Listen, I'm moving. I'm going to Atlanta with Ronnie." And it was just like, and his grandmother said something Caine, I sure hope you don't mess that girl's life up. And the fact that he just kind of looked at his grandmother and said, like, how could you say something like that? But his grandparents had been dealing with them ever since he was a little boy, and they saw the fuck up that he had become throughout life. And they was just hoping that this boy didn't fuck up somebody else's life along with that, as he was leaving to go with them. Because they saw the progression. They saw it. They really did. So much so that the only people really that loved Caine other than Ronnie and had his best interest at heart ended up basically telling him, you got to get the fuck. That's it.
That's it. I think that was it, because that was the dagger, because that was his only support system. And by that point, man, they had just, given up, man. That relationship had eroded, and they just got washed their hands with him. So phenomenal breakdown, man. Because I wasn't really a fan of the soundtrack, man. It wasn't too many songs that really grabbed me, man.
Nah, it wasn't a whole lot. I mean, again, just straight up Menace, obviously by MC8, who was right there in his We Come Strapped era, you know what I'm saying, for that movie. I mean, there was a lot of things on there, classic songs, Computer Love by Roger and Zapp. That was a classic song. But not really a whole lot of stuff there, man. There was Unconditional Love by High Five. Okay, it gets a little bit of something. P is Still Free by Boogie Down Productions with KRS-One. Can't Fuck With a Nigga with DJ Quick, KK, JFN. I mean, not really a whole lot, man. Trigger Got No Heart, though, with the bonus track with Spice One. I mean, some things on there, man. But for the most part, not really a whole lot, man. Just straight up Menace. And other than that, not really a whole lot other than that. Nigga Got No Heart by Spice One as well. So, not really a whole lot on that soundtrack. It just really was the movie drove the narrative on this more than anything else.